Turf Talk with Drew Miller.
For this week's episode of Tiger Turf Talk, we hosted the Director of Landscape Services at Ole Miss, Mr. Jeff McManus. In this episode, we dive into Mr. McManus' career, where he started off graduating from Auburn University with a degree in landscape and ornamental horticulture, moving on into jobs at different resorts in Orlando, Florida and Miami, Florida, before ending up back in Mississippi at Ole Miss. During his time at Ole Miss, Mr. McManus has racked in the accolades from personal ones to 5 national Most Beautiful Campus Awards in the country. What is so great about this podcast is that he puts into perspective what truly matters as a landscape manager. He talks about his leadership styles, how he is able to empower and work with his co-workers and his employees in order to make everyone better around them. Mr. McManus is also well known throughout the industry because he is the author of the book Growing Leaders into Leaders, which is putting into perspective the ideas of what he does as a leader to promote leadership within his own crew and bring them to the level of where they can possibly go with their lives if they want to. Through this concept, he created Landscape University, where his workers are able to obtain different levels of certification based on what they can provide to the service of the landscape crew. Whether it's operating the machine safely, whether it's becoming a better leader, there are different levels, and it motivates his employees to want to be better and to make sure that they continue to grow not only as individuals, but as a strong, unified team that gets the job done correctly, in good quality, and in a timely manner. I'm going to be honest, I can talk about this all day. This is a fantastic episode. Please be sure to listen. Tell us what you think. It was an honor to have Mr. McManus on. Jeff, I want to say thank you. We really appreciate you taking the time. I know the kids really enjoyed it. I know that they learned a lot. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode of Tiger Turf Talk. All right, everybody, welcome to the 6th episode of Tiger Turf Talk. I'm your host, Drew Miller. Today we have an amazing guest, Mr. Jeff McManus of Ole Miss. I've been told to not mess up the name and try and say it with university and whatnot because, again, like you said, it's sacred ground down there in Mississippi. How you doing today?
Man, great to see everybody here on the call. Super.
Sounds great.
A lot of fun.
So we're just going to get into it. We just talked about it. Back in 2017 in Phoenix, you were the keynote speaker at the Sports Turf Managers Association conference. And I just remember so much about that presentation because of what you were doing, not just for your landscape group, but for the people and the individuals in your crew. And it was just so great to hear about your journey and whatnot and how you've become this incredible leader. I was sort of just curious if we could start off with where your journey started. I see you're a graduate of Auburn. So again, I don't know how you ended up at Ole Miss with Auburn, but if you could sort of just walk us through what you did and how you came to Ole Miss.
Well, when I was, a lot of these guys' ages, I thought I was going to be a computer nerd, right? The computers back in those days were just coming out and everybody said, man, you got to go into computers. So I just, when you're graduating from high school, everybody's asking you, what are you going to do next? And I just said, I don't know, something with computers. And I absolutely hated computers when I found out and tried to figure all that out. So once that was established, I took some marketing classes when I was in college. I was actually majoring in marketing, and maybe this will be an encouragement for some of your guys and girls here. But I failed marketing. I mean, I was terrible at it. But at the same time, I was taking some agriculture classes at Auburn because my brother owned a garden center. And I'm like, man, I need to know a few plant names. And when I work there in the summertime, I need to know that that's not just a green whatchamacallit, right?
Have some fancy words to make some
That's
profit
right.
and whatnot.
Carissa holly. That's a Photinia red tip. Whatever it may be, I could throw it. I could throw a little Latin out there when I needed to sprinkle it out.
And they wouldn't question.
And so, yeah. And so I learned, and what I found out is I fell in love with it. My dad had started us off early in life. He was in old school of working, right? So we worked on Saturdays, and I sort of got turned off by manual labor. I don't know if you've ever met him or not, but manual labor really turned me off. That's when you get out there and do some sweating and so forth. But when I got into the study of plants, I was like, man, this is kind of cool. And the real thing and that really excited me is that my professor, Dr. Ponder at Auburn, he knew everything there was about plants. And I'm like, who is this guy? I mean, like this has got to be the guy that was around when God created the earth, and he's the one who named all the plants, because this guy knows everything. It was just amazing. But out of all that was going on, all those plant names, the one name that was the most important that he knew, and this may not mean a lot to your folks that are there now, but in college is a big deal. The one name that he knew that was most important was he knew my name. And he called me by my name. And in college, you go to a big school like Auburn, that's a big deal, because usually you're not really referred to as a by name. And so that was so cool. But also that he knew all my classmates' names. And so that personalization and how he wanted us to be successful really, I mean, that drove home deep to me early. And I was hooked by that passion that he had for plants. And he gave that to me. He gave me that passion for plants and how exciting they can be and so forth. So that was something that really early in my voyage. And not only did Dr. Ponder do that for me, did it for others, but he was the one who helped us have career day. And if you don't know career day, that's when you bring in a lot of businesses and they interview you. And that's that next important part, right? We got to make that money, right? And so we want to make money all day long. Well, landscaping is not a great way to make money, depending on what you're doing. And so anyway, he got all of us connected with great jobs. I ended up moving to Orlando, of all places. There I was in Alabama, went to Orlando, hung out next to Disney. So I was seeing Goofy and Minnie and Daffy Duck and all the crew, and I was watching this amazing landscaping. If you get an opportunity, any of your students, to intern at Walt Disney World, don't even think about it, just do it, because you will catapult you the way you think. It'll change your life. I did not work at Disney, but I was so influenced because the people that I worked with in Orlando had worked at Disney. It changed me. They do it right. They do it. They're one of the top, the best. I mean, they're the Rolls Royce of how they do landscaping. When they take out plants at night at 3 o'clock in the morning and totally rechange the landscaping, so people come in at 10 o'clock in the morning, it's brand new. It's just perfect. So I got that passion, that love for it. Went down to Miami and worked there for 12 years, learned how to speak, Espanol and a little Creole and all that good stuff. And just, I was the youngest person on the crew, and it was very stressful. But anyway, ended up coming here to Orlando, back to Mississippi, where they have sweet tea, biscuits, and grits. And so that's where my roots were. So I don't know if you guys do sweet tea there where you are. I don't know if you do biscuits.
I'm sure plenty of them.
I'm pretty sure
here.
you don't do grits, right?
I think there are a few places. Definitely sweet tea, though. I'm not a big fan of sweet tea, but I know a lot of the students are. So, yeah. You sort of talked about how your passion for plants came from your professor. And with your writing and a lot of different things, you use that idea of plants and growth in your management practices. How did that become a part of what you do as a leader in your crew?
Well, the schools are great at teaching you plant knowledge. I mean, you're going to learn, if you go to a good school, you're going to come away with your practical part, whether you're a CPA, whether you're a school teacher. But as you know, Drew, what they don't prepare you for as much as the human connection. And that's how do you lead people. When you're like, for example, our campus is 1,000 acres. I've got 32 people on staff, 33 with me. How do you get those people energized, excited, and motivated to every day perform at a high level? And you think, well, you're the boss, you just tell them to. Well, you'll discover that doesn't work, right? And so that part became the fun part, was to crack the code on how do you get people excited about what they do. Just like Dr. Ponder gave me the passion. How do I give the guy who's making $10, $12 an hour, who's this is going to be his career job for the next 30 years? How do I get him excited, him or her excited about plants? And they don't know a single name of a plant, and we're getting ready to hire them to maintain this campus. So that was fun for me. Still is. I don't know if that answered that question.
No, it
but,
did. It did.
We'll
I'm
go
sorry.
for it.
Yeah, for sure. Now you were just talking about people that you were hiring and whatnot. So you developed something known as Landscape University, which I
Yeah.
think that was probably the coolest thing about your presentation, STMA. Could you sort of give the kids an idea of what it is and how it became a thing?
Yeah,
At your shop?
landscape yeah, it's not like a real university like University of Mississippi, Ole Miss, but it's a training program internally. And Drew, as you know, when you get people on staff, they don't know the difference between Bermuda grass and Kentucky bluegrass. They don't know the difference between azaleas and nandinas. And so they don't even know, they might know it's a bush, right? And so most people or they don't care. So how do you get that person from where they are to where they're extremely good at what they do? They know their work, and we couldn't find anything out there that had that path to it, that track. How do we take somebody and develop them? And that's what Landscape University became. It became our tracks. It was like the train tracks that we put our staff on, and we had a career path for them to grow. And so as I'm talking, I'm going to grab a couple of the magnets that I have that I want to show some of your guys that are watching here.
Sounds great.
We came up with the levels. There's 6 levels and added on a few more. But as people get certified, they get their first level. And I don't know if you can see that, but that's
Definitely can.
You can see the 1 star at the bottom.
Mhm.
You put this on your locker, and it signifies that, hey, you are now certified in level 1. And we have those going all the way, the other levels as well. This one's level 5, but it gives people ownership. It's like, hey, I know my plants now. I'm learning how to do this at our standards for Ole Miss. Just like Disney has created Disney University, how to teach their employees how to interact with guests, we use that same principle on how to grow our people's plant knowledge, grow their leadership knowledge, grow their safety. Anything that we have a challenge with or something in the workplace that people need to know, we just created a small class. The fun part about it now is that we actually create little videos, and we'll put them in there, and our people are the rock stars in the videos, right? So when we do the training now, they're in the videos. We do PowerPoints. They're the ones in the PowerPoint. So as a new person comes on board, they're seeing their staff already being showcased in these, and it gives a lot of ownership to the program. Some of those you can get a raise on some of those levels, because some of those levels are really challenging to get through, and not every level is a challenge and is not as hard, so you don't get a raise at every level. But that gives also a little bit more incentive to do the program as well.
Absolutely. Now, do the levels have specific ideas behind each one? Meaning, like, would it be a certification in pesticide application or something along the lines of just operating a mower safely? Is there sort of an idea behind those levels?
Yeah, I mean you're exactly right. Now here's what we did, because the state has its own certification program for spraying. We decided not to put that in our program because the state already has a program. So
Perfect.
our guys who get certified in spraying, they do the state program. And anything that the state covered, we did not put in our program, but we found there was so much that they didn't put in the program. So for example, mowing, as you said, that's our level 300. And so you in level 300, you need to learn how to drive the John Deeres, the Toros, the grasshopper. You need to drive the Walker mower. All the mowers you need to know how to drive and have X amount of, like I think it's 100 hours on each one. You need to know how to service it. You need to know how to service it before you go out and how to service it when you come back in. What's the protocol on everything on problems, how to find problems. Can you sharpen the blades? You got to be able to sharpen blades. You got to be able to train people how to run the mower. So what we're trying to do is create the mindset where you're learning initially, but then you become the teacher, you become the coach. And so part of the program is that you are mentoring other people as well and teaching them. So level 300 is all about mowing. You go to level 400, that's all about what we call detail work. That's pruning, planting, all about shrubs, ground covers, annuals, small trees. And then you go to level 500, that's much more leadership focused for us, where you're wanting to become a supervisor, you're wanting to become a senior grounds person. So you'll go through classes in that development as well. So level 100 is actually more orientation, and level 200 is a lot more of your first 3 to 6 months safety protocols on what we do here on campus.
That's awesome. That's pretty much what our class is made for. We have to grade the students on state competencies, and the grading scale is from not being able to do it to being able to teach others how to do. So that sounds awesome. With the idea of Landscape University, I think it's phenomenal in the sense that it emphasizes education, and how important it is to be educated on everything that you're doing. How important do you think, for these kids who might be entering, say, the landscape industry or the turf industry, how important do you think it is to move on to a higher level education, maybe a 2-year or 4-year degree, or just through Landscape University, something like that? How important do you think that is to be successful in this industry?
I guess I would come back and ask you, Drew, how much money do you want to make? Because this industry, this industry respects the education. So if you want to go out and just do your own thing and go work at a golf course, you'll get so high, and you may or may not make it to the next level. But I guarantee you, if you have that piece of paper, it will open doors of opportunity a lot quicker than if you don't have it. Some of the best people I've ever run into, some of the most knowledgeable are ones without a piece of paper, but I have not met anybody in higher education, which is what I'm in at a college, who has been in the position I'm in, who doesn't have a piece of paper. Now, that piece of paper doesn't mean I'm any more special, but what it tells my employer is that I know how to learn, that I am qualified, I have met certain standards, and so it allows me the opportunity to go through the next door. Education is the ticket in so many ways to go to the next door. It's not the only one. You look at, there's all in history, people who didn't finish school and did well, but they're the exceptions. That's why we talk about them. And for most of us who are part of the society, like myself, if I didn't have a degree, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. I would not be able to be here at Ole Miss. I have a dream job. I really do. It's a great job. And I get so much autonomy, which means I get to pretty much figure out what I want to do all day long, because I'm responsible. Ultimately, I'm responsible. So if the campus looks bad, I can make all the excuses in the world. I'm still responsible. And so I've got to make it happen. And my bosses, I'm very fortunate, they don't micromanage me. They don't sit there and tell me, well, Jeff, you need to do this, you need to do that. When I came in with a degree, the expectation was, you're the expert, now go do it. Make us the nation's most beautiful campus. Go help us with our recruiting when a college student drives on campus and their moms and dads, that they look around and they go, we want to be here. This is a neat campus. And within the first few minutes of a college visit, people decide if they're going to a university. And so I'm part of the recruiting process. And so we that's really important. That next certification, if you want to do it, start working at a golf course, work with a landscaper. There's so many careers in the green industry. And if you show up, you're dependable, you're honest, you're going to be so further ahead than most people in the industry. You'll advance quickly. Our industry is hungry for leaders, hungry for people who will do what they say, show up, can get along with people. Man, you'll set yourself apart in a hurry. And if you start learning your plant names, oh my goodness, man, you just really went to a whole new level. So I amen your education program there, my friend.
I appreciate it. We try our best. So you were talking about autonomy, and with with I don't know if a lot of the students in here understand the immense size of, say, Ole Miss. I'm a Virginia Tech graduate, so they're, again, big schools with so much.
Beautiful campus.
It really is. With everything that's going on, how is it that you make decisions based off of what you want, in the sense of, okay, the beautiful picture behind you? What made you do that specific pattern in plants? Do you use landscape design? Sort of how are you as a leader maintaining throughout the year this beautiful campus that's been named the most beautiful campus in the country multiple times over the past few years?
Yeah. That's a very insightful question. And I learned this in the resort business when I was down around Disney. Here's what you're doing. And if you remember this, when you're working at high-end properties like this, you're creating moments, you're creating experiences. You want people to stop and hold up their phone and take a picture. That's what you're trying to get. You're trying to get people, you're creating these areas of space. So this area behind us, it's all about, that's one of our, if you see the building columns, that's our Lyceum. That's our big academic building as far as the hub.
Beautiful.
And that building was built in 1848. It's the historical, it's where everybody gets their picture made at graduation. And so you want those color schemes to work. You want it to be low maintenance enough because you got a lot of ground to cover. You have very few people to do it, but you got to make sure your focal points pop. Know where to spend the money. And so that's a focal, right here behind me is a focal point. But you drive away, 100 feet or so, it's maybe not a focal point. It just needs to be clean and neat and looks like somebody loves the place and clean. So a lot of it is making sure we all know we're on the same page for priorities. Like what's the most, in 1,000 acres, not everything can be top. Not everything can be the very top priority. So we've made what we call the money areas our top areas. Our money areas are what we make sure that we're touching at least twice a week. So we may be blowing, we may be going through there spraying weeds. We're going to touch that area with some human contact to make sure everything's in good shape. We may touch it once a day with our guys who are punching, we call the fun run, who are going around punching paper and making sure making sure our compactors are emptied or not sending signals to us by email saying that they're full. Where our trash cans talk to us. I don't know if y'all have trash cans like that on your campus, but just getting smarter technology, things like that helps so much today.
That's great.
I don't know. It's colors. The color schemes are fun. I mean, it's fun when you like doing that. Like how do you put the marigolds with the salvia? What color schemes do they work? That you need to know you need to know a little art. You need to know your color wheel. You got to make the color wheel work.
That's what makes landscaping so much fun, for me at least. That's just me personally. You were talking about your crew and how you guys go out. What's the size of your crew and how often are you having them work? I mean, it's probably on a daily basis, but sort of going out different areas. Do you have different levels? Like people you said were picking trash, the fun run. I've been to plenty of those. Mowing crews, stuff like that. How many people are on a mower? How many people are on a weed eater, string trimmer, edging the sidewalks? There's so many sidewalks. It's probably way too much to edge, to be honest. But just sort of how do you manage that in a sense?
Well, you just, one of the girls who used to work here, she started in the front line. She started weeding. And over time, she worked her way up, and up, and she ran day-to-day operations. She was my second in charge. And she says, what we do is we divide and conquer. And that's the way you got to look at a campus, is you've got to divide it up into small chunks, right? So that you can conquer, because you'll get overwhelmed. But if you create the system, if you create a perpetual calendar, because plants are going to grow pretty much the same way all year long. You're going to have your spring growth. In the summertime, they're going to slow down a little bit because it's so hot. In the fall, they're going to drop their leaves. They're going to go dormant in the wintertime. And you know what's going to happen in the spring again. So knowing your perpetual calendar, know what you need to be. Are you putting down your pre-emergence? Because if you miss the window to put down your pre-emergence to stop your weeds, guess what you're going to start having in March and April? Weeds.
Long days.
And you're playing catch up. You're way behind. You've got to hit your windows. If you don't, your anxiety level, the pressure, the stress goes up tremendously. So that's one of the things that we do, is we create a perpetual calendar. That's one of part of Landscape University, is teaching people what's important this month. So this month for us, October, the grass is starting to go dormant. We're praying for frost, right? We're ready for frost.
Bring it on.
Then right, and we're ready for leaves to start dropping, because we're going into mulching season, which is we're going to be mulching up all those leaves. 99% of all of our leaves stay here on campus, right? We just mulch it back into the turf and other areas. And so we're going to be doing a lot of that just now. So we know that's coming. And then we're going to be reseeding, doing a lot of reseeding. We'll do that after football season's over. It's a little late, but that's when we can do it. So we'll be doing overseed as well, getting ready for wintertime. So following that calendar, and then, so we have 2 crews that mow, and we divide the campus up into 10 zones. And so it's like a clock. If you look at a clock, it would only have 10 hands, but it's just like pieces of a pie. And so you use roadways to kind of create your boundaries, or you might create a street that says, okay, we don't go past here on Tuesdays. And then on Wednesdays, we do that side over there. And then on Thursdays, we go over there. And so every day we know where we're going to be. And it's important that we hit those days. If we don't hit them, rain comes, then we have to make up for it the next day. But that keeps us on schedule. Everybody knows where they're going on Mondays. The detail crew knows where they're going every day. And they may vary some, but it's perpetual. It's on the schedule. And the key is to plan it, like put it in the ground, design it so that it's low maintenance. So you don't want to be planting Elaeagnus bushes right up next to the window, because those rascals, they grow 3, 4, 5 feet and over the summer, and they'll cover up your windows. So that's a high maintenance plant. Put that same plant out away from everything, where you need a good screen and barrier where you don't have to prune it. Great plant. So you got to know your plants. Your plants help you determine low maintenance, high maintenance. So one of the things we take a lot of pride in is creating low maintenance landscapes. And so that our people can go through the zones pretty quickly without a lot of high touches. They don't have to do a lot of hand weeding. We put our pre-emergence down. Right after we get through planting, we put down the pre-emergence. Then we come back in 3 months and hit another application, so that we're not hand pulling. We don't have to go in and spray a lot of herbicide around the plants. But you know what? This time of year, we're still spraying weeds. We've got people spraying weeds. We probably have 2 full-time people that do nothing but spray weeds, and turf grass, and then also in our beds as well. Good spray program is going to keep you very efficient and keep you probably a lot of your maintenance in check as well.
That's awesome. And I mean, you said 1,000 acres. I'm just trying to put that in my head right now, to be honest with you, and how you manage it. So again, you were talking about your crew and how you set it up to where it is. In your book, or I'm sorry if it's novel, I'm sorry if I'm saying the wrong word.
That's right.
You discussed different, there it is, guys, leadership lessons and whatnot. And I'm sort of curious, what do you think is the most effective leadership style for you in your workplace? And also from the book, if you could explain the grow theory to the kids, because I think that's fascinating, and it's just a great way to approach leadership in a workplace.
Well, if we were to ask your classroom and who here is a leader, so let's do that real quick. I want everybody to give me a thumbs up or a hand clap or raise your hand. If you're a leader, give me a thumbs up. I want to see how many thumbs up we get. If anybody's there, they may have all left. Go get some. I got a couple. Okay.
Got a couple.
Yeah, here we go. We're populating now. Okay. Now, those that didn't, thank you for doing that. I would challenge you. I would ask you, because I did this at work, and I asked everybody on our work crew, I said, who's a leader? And they looked at me, and some of them raised their hands, similar to what we did here. But then I said, who leads you every single day? Every single day, all day long, who leads you? And that's yourself, right? You lead one person every single day, and that's yourself. You determine your attitude. You determine what you're going to do. You determine so much of your life. So when we say that everybody is a leader, maybe not the boss of the boss or whatever, but you're a leader. You still lead. You lead yourself. And trust me, how Ben leads is going to affect how Sam responds. How Ryan leads is going to affect Zach. Because if I come in with an attitude and I'm pushing things around, or you can just tell I'm in a bad mood. Everybody else is kind of going like, whoa, he woke up on the wrong side of the bed, or what got into him today. And so it affects people. So how we lead is very important. So we want to develop that lead by example, that mindset. We want to be the best of the best. And if any of you guys have participated in any type of organization, you know that nobody ever strives to be average. Hey, we want to be average today. Let's go out and get a average representation. Let's just be average grass out there. We want to be the best. We want to strive for excellence. And so at Ole Miss, we challenged ourselves to think, how can we become the nation's most beautiful campus? And that was the challenge, was let's become the nation's most beautiful campus. And so we didn't know how to do that, but we knew that we had to change some things. And so we started creating standards. The grass needs to be mowed at 3.5 inches in the summertime. Then the weed eaters and the line trimmers need to mow at 3.5 inches. They can't scalp. They can't come in and cut it lower because it looks terrible. And people notice that and they go, ooh, this didn't look good, doesn't look right. Plus weeds start growing when you scalp the grass. So we
know that firsthand. Unfortunately.
Do you?
It's our first time on a weeder half the time, so we're learning firsthand.
And one of our standards is we don't turn a weed eater up on its side and use it as an edger, because it doesn't give you a clean manicured edge. Edge every hard surface, right? We call it hard edging. So every sidewalk and curb, if you don't mow, at least edge, because it'll pop. It looks manicured. You can buy some time with your mowers if you'll just edge. But as soon as you start having runners coming off the curb, it looks unkept. So you're always making sure you're edging. Then we do soft edging. But we've kept putting in these little standards. That's part of what Landscape University does now, is it keeps those standards there as we're bringing new people in and people retire, making sure we don't drop in our standards, giving people ownership and how we do that. So I think, really is you got to determine where you want to go. And if you're the leader, for me, I was very fortunate. My boss said, we want to be known as a great public university. And I just took that to mean is we want to be one of the best of the best. And so it's hard to say that sometimes. I wasn't used to saying that. But as you start leading others, you talk about it, people will listen. It's like, well, how do we become the best of the best? And we started talking about the standards and how to create that excellence. We went and visited other properties to see what other people were doing. We saw things that were good. We saw things that were bad. And so people began to realize that, we need to do things different. And so that leadership, I had to set the tone. As the head leader of the department, if I go and sit in the office and play computer games, people are going to know it. They're going to get frustrated. They're not going to work out in the field. So I've got to be out in the field. I've got to be out there interacting. I've got to check on things. I got to see what they've done and then let them know what a good job they've done. Or it happens if I need to fix something. It's like, hey, we scalped over here. What was going on here? Looks like maybe our decks aren't even. What's going on with the decks on the 52 or whatever it may be. And so quality control, praise, reaffirming those standards, but you got to be engaged in it. The worst leaders you have are those who are apathetic. They just don't care. They got the title, but they don't care. When you find somebody who's passionate about what they do, they love landscaping, they love being a part of something bigger than themselves, that's when it gets to be fun. Because when you're that way, you start attracting other people like you. And then you start having a great college campus like Ole Miss, people who are energetic and excited, who want to create the nation's most beautiful campus, who want to bring their families here on the weekends and say, hey, look, this is what mom and dad do during the week. This is where we work. And they're like, wow, man, this is awesome, Dad. This is awesome, Mom. Y'all do a great job here. And it's that pride of ownership. So lead by example. That is the easiest way to be a leader, is to set the example right there.
That honestly, I feel like that's the best way. I remember my boss at Virginia Tech, Casey Underwood, same way. He would always be out working us, and I'm like, I can't keep up with this guy. What's going on? I got to work harder. So
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
You did ask about the growth
yes,
theory.
I was going to say,
tell you real quick.
That would be awesome.
So there's just 4 words for growth. So there's greatness, resiliency, opportunity. Anybody know what the W is? Anybody want to guess? You can put it in the chat. All right, I'll tell you. Wisdom. So really, when we talk about greatness, one of the things you just heard me talk about is we wanted to be the best of the best. And the people who do that is right to encourage them to share that passion to do it. That's the greatness. We think greatness sometimes belongs to the athletes or whoever, the great singers and everything. But man, we do greatness in the landscape. We create cathedrals in the trees, right? We create these awesome spots for people to find, God, to find their inner peace. We create these unique spaces, and we get to do that. Not everybody can do that. That's the greatness. Well, then there's that resiliency, that toughness. If you get in this industry, you'll have grit, you'll have the toughness, because you're going to be working outdoors and any kind of weather. You may have the beautiful day like today it is here, but then it may be sleet, snow, right? We're out there in it. And so not everybody can do the kind of work we do. That's what sets us up, I think, in that greatness, is that we're tough and we can do the things that so many people can't do. And so in that resiliency, we're always looking for better answers with our team. And when we do that with our team, they get ownership in that. And so we give people an opportunity to excel. And so Landscape University is a big part of that, giving them a chance to better themselves. Since we talked Drew, I'm sorry, since you heard me speak last, we've created another program. It's our Merit Award program, and it's really 9 merit awards where people can now get a merit award for an opportunity to show their leadership. So one of those is lead by example, and they get a pin when they do the task on that. But then the last one is wisdom. If you're doing what you're doing today, which is learning from a guy like Drew, who's been out in the world, he's done some of these things, and you're waxing strong through his wisdom, that's what the last one is. It's you're changing who you're listening to. It's easy to listen to the contemporary music of today. That's easy. That's kind of like bubble gum for the mind. But when you start listening to the thought leaders, when you're watching TEDx talks and you're growing, when you're watching John Maxwell and you're learning how to do leadership, that's who you change. That changes your life. You will know who you will become by the 5 people you hang out with. The 5 people you hang out with will be the average of your salary. So if you're hanging out with people who are making minimum wage, those 5 people you hang about, you're going to be making minimum wage in 5 years. So who you hang out with, walking with the wise, who you're listening to will change your life. The books you read will change your life. So we read books here, Drew. As you remember, we read books here with our crew. Not everybody reads, but a lot of our guys do. It's changed their lives. I mean, they're making better decisions at home. They're doing things different. Some of them now have side hustles where they have a business going that they never would have done if they hadn't have been doing the books. And they're motivated. They're making more money now working here and doing side hustles. So walk with the wise. Choose your friends carefully. I know, oh man, it sounds like my parents. It's so true. It's so true. And listen, when you break from high school, you get to kind of do a reset. You can start all over and start with some new friends. So don't feel like you're stuck if you're there. But if you got great friends now, and you're like, man, I'm going to lose them. Well, I don't think you will. You'll just gain more new ones as well. So that was the 5. So greatness, resiliency, opportunity, and wisdom.
Again, that's reading that and then hearing you talk about it is awesome. I sort of had a question. Where did it come from when you wanted to become an author and start down this path? Did Landscape You happen before or after? Or I didn't actually check the publication date on it. I'm just curious, what made you come to the point of writing this amazing book?
Well, I felt like our story needed to be told. I enjoy speaking. I enjoy watching the light bulb turn on for people. I love the coaching, and we do a lot of coaching here. And I love seeing our teammates go from they didn't think they could do it to now they're teaching others how to do it. And that you know as an educator, the exciting part when somebody gets passionate about what they do, that's the thrill, right? That's better. And your students may not believe this. It's better than the money, right? It's that gratification of seeing that someone else score that touchdown. You help call the play, you help design it, you help practice, and then they scored and executed it.
Absolutely.
So the book came out of that love for what we do, but it also is, I knew that I wanted to I wanted to have a platform to be able to speak and share and encourage others in the industry to don't underappreciate the most valuable asset you have in the workplace, and that's the people you work with. You can solve so many of your problems if you'll slow down and invest in your people. When we look at our staffing matrix, Drew, and the staffing matrix tells you how many people you should have working out in the field at 1,000 acres. It takes in all your square footage. It takes in all how many beds you have, how many seasonal color. When we run all that number, and it's a big number, and it's a lot of work to run that number, we should have 55 people working on our campus to maintain it at a level 2. And level 1's the best. Level 2 is really, really good. What 1's like a Disney, and so 2's more like a high end. What we're doing, 55 people, and I only have 33. Out of those 33, only 25 actually work in the field. So less than half of what we should have, we're doing it. And there's all kind of ways that we've, have been able to change that. We've hired some contractors to do our big trees, so we don't have to do that. But really the difference maker is that our people are bought in. They love working here. They want to be a part of the success. They want to be a part of the solution. So we empower them to make the decisions. If they make the wrong decisions, we don't come down, and tell them how wrong they were. It's like, hey, how do we learn from this? How do we do it better? But getting people to buy in to, hey, that piece of paper on the ground, that belongs to all of us. It's not just the guy going around picking up paper. I'm supposed to pick it up too, and I'm the director of landscaping, so I do pick it up, right? I want to set the right example. So a lot of that is that excitement and that thrill, but but staying focused on what's important there.
Again, the empowerment thing, I think that's huge. I think that's probably my number one thing that I need to do in order to be a successful teacher and have these guys really learn what it takes to be a landscape manager or a turf grass manager. So with the book, you did a few, it might have been a few, might have just been one TED Talk, but in the TED Talk, and I think you talked about it earlier, is how important you are as a landscape manager for the university, and what it's like to have the president of the university walk with you and sort of explain sort of how you just said. You said in a TED Talk, I think you picked up a piece of trash and you were sort of like, oh my goodness, this is the president of the university. He's picking it up. So if you could sort of speak to that part of the TED Talk in a sense,
Sure.
and the concept behind it, because I think it's great.
Well, I was very fortunate the first week I was here that here we don't have we don't I grew up with having a president is on the college campus. But here we have a chancellor. Same thing, but they call him the chancellor. So I'm going to use that term chancellor because otherwise
I
might get
apologize.
confused. No. I just want to make, because when I say chancellor, I didn't know what a chancellor was until I came here. But just think president, same thing. But the first week I was here, our chancellor was so involved in the beauty of the campus that they wanted it so pretty that he wanted to spend time with me. And trust me, that's not normal. Most college campuses, the boss, the highest person who has the degrees and wears the suits and the ties and is in all the big meetings and hanging out with the alumni, they're not hanging around with landscapers too often. And so for him to invite me to come and do a campus walk with him was a big deal. I was honored. But I went down early in the morning. I went to his house there on campus, and he came out. We began walking up the street, and within 10 seconds of walking on the street, he was bending over picking up pieces of paper that were along the curb. Well, I'm no dummy, right? You know what I did when I observed that behavior from my boss's boss. You know exactly what I did. I started picking up paper. And so after a little while, after us both picking up paper and we're not getting very far in our walk, he says, we're going to just have to keep walking and not pick up everything. But it is that passion that he had for excellence. He wanted to be the campus to be one of the best. He wanted the campus to be a recruiting tool. He wanted the employees to be able to come and the students to come outside and study and to have that relaxing space where people just can decompress. And so he had that vision. My role was is I had to take what he was saying, being the best, and I had to turn that into practical everyday application, because he doesn't walk around and go, that tree limb needs to be pruned. I need these shrubs to be changed. He's expecting me to figure that out. And thankfully, he let me do that. And that's the exciting part, is you get to do some creations and so forth. So it became very important to me to know that what he wanted was something that was very, very unique, and that we could recruit against LSU, that we could recruit against the University of Alabama, that we could recruit against Auburn. You know, all those guys are in our conference. They're some of the biggest schools in the nation, some of the best football programs. But you know where we out recruit them? If we can get the college prospect on this campus, our chances go up tremendously that we can get them. Our football coaches say, don't visit Ole Miss campus if you don't want to come here, because once you come, you're going to fall in love with it and you're going to want to be there. So we take a lot of ownership in that. So we a lot of times have our football coach come speak to our guys, right? You got the head football coach who's, you know, in the SEC, the Southeastern Conference. That's a big deal. They're revered, and you know, football is a big deal in the United States. So the coach comes in. We say, Coach, how important is the appearance of the campus to your recruiting? And I mean, you can't get them to be quiet. They just talk, man, it's the most important thing. It's the first impression. And he says, we get those mamas and daddies liking this campus. They see how safe it is, clean it is. They want to be here. He goes, it's huge. When you guys are doing what you need to do to make this campus pop, He goes, our job's easy because then we can just take them around the facilities. We're not having to make excuses for how the campus looked. Chancellor told me when I was a year or two after we'd been walking around, he goes, when the campus is pretty, he goes, I don't have to make excuses to our alumni, and I can ask for money. He goes, I actually don't even have to ask. I can just ride them around and they want to be a part of this. He goes, it makes my job super easy. And you don't think landscaping is that big of a deal until you come to a campus like this, and it's a major player. Landscaping is a major player in the recruiting, the fundraising, the way people feel about it. Let me ask you this, Drew.
Yes,
Have you
sir.
ever seen a sunset riding down the road and you just stop for a moment and you just say, man, that's just gorgeous. You ever had that experience?
For sure. Definitely. A lot, actually.
And I bet a lot of your students have too. Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever seen anything that's in front of that sunset? Let's say it's a power line, maybe it's a tree, maybe it's a building. Does it make it even look even prettier?
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, birds, whatever it is. We're the sunset. What we do is the sunset, folks. We create the sunset that makes everything else better. You see, if we're shining and we're on our game, then they go, man, I want to be a part of this. Okay, how much do I write the check out? Who do I make the check out to? That's what we want them. That's what we want, right? That we want them go, I want to go to school here. I want to be a part of that program. It's like jumping on the bandwagon, right? We all jump on those teams that are winning. And so we create that bandwagon where people just take pride. They want to bring it and show it off to people. They don't. I have people in the city say, we come out there and show our relatives what all y'all's work. We're just so proud of it. They don't know us. They're just proud of what it is. And you can change a community by the way landscaping looks. Isn't that crazy? People take such pride in that. So
That's
hope
just
that's
awesome.
important. Yeah,
For sure.
Yeah.
Keeping in line with the TED Talk, there's a story in there, and at Tech we were not involved in this, thank God. But you have this beautiful grove on campus, correct? And there's a lot of tailgates that occur. If you could sort of tell the story in the sense of how you handled it and how your crew handled it, because I know that our crew at Tech would not have handled it that well in any way, shape, or form. So they sort of know what I'm talking about. I'll let you take it from here on that story, because again, I think it's amazing.
Well, the story, was Ole Miss is has been voted year after year as number one spot for tailgating. It is like nothing I have ever seen before. I went to school at Auburn. Nothing compared. No offense to my alumni, but the tailgating here is just a whole different level.
We won't tell.
I mean, yeah, it's like they bring chandeliers and put them in the tents, and I mean they have the tents are catered, and it's just a big deal, and it's a lot of fun. It's a family gathering. It's like old home week, right? People come and they see their friends, and it's a part of the experience. And Ole Miss for a long time had a saying that we may not win every game, but we never lose a party, right? And so the Grove was the party, right? It was the fun time of gathering. Well, the Grove is 10 acres. And when it's all over, people go home, people take their tents and so forth, and they would leave a lot of trash and garbage and so forth. And our staff, who took a lot of pride in their work, would see, tons of garbage. I mean, usually the minimum we take out is 60 tons. Our record's been 96 when we played Alabama a couple of years ago. 96 tons of garbage, which is more than a space shuttle. Okay, so we're hauling all this stuff away, and the morale's sort of down, right? Everybody's kind of, woe, it's me, and it's like, we've got to figure out a different way to do this. So we asked our staff, some of our key leaders were like, guys, we know this is tough. I mean, it's sort of a gut punch, as you get out there, you see all your work kind of, just slammed and all stuff. So how can we do it different? And somebody just kind of raised their hand. They go, I know, we could close the Grove on game day and don't let anybody tailgate. And we all laugh, and that's funny. You're not going to close the Grove. So the key, I think, for me, looking back on it, is as a leader, the easy thing for me to do is to solve this, right? Is me come up with the answers. But even if I did, that's not the best way. Is I let our staff participate in figuring out the solution. So it came back and we said, okay, what could we do? We can't close the Grove. And somebody says, well, what if we contracted out the work so that we didn't have to come in and clean up 60 to 90 tons of garbage? We could have some contractors. We said, that's actually a really good idea. So we put it out for bid, Drew. The only problem we had is nobody put a bid in to actually clean it up. So nobody wanted our garbage.
That had to hurt.
And yeah, that hurt. It was a blow. So we go back to the same group. We said, look, nobody bid on it. What can we do? And we had started experimenting with coming in late at night, like at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning after the game was over, and trying to do a wow cleanup, trying to clean up. And so somebody raised their hand and says, what if we invited a nonprofit group, maybe somebody like the Baptist Student Union or maybe the Navy ROTC guys? What if we invited them to come and help us clean up? And, that would give us a lot of people at one time. We could do it at midnight. We'd be through quicker. And everybody just kind of laughed. It's like, Ole Miss students are not going to help clean up. They're going to go to the football game. They're going to party. They're going to have a good time, but they are not going to want to clean up. But I called a guy over at Baptist Student Union, the BSU, and said, hey, we got this idea. We're willing to pay your students. We pay the organization. We'd pay you $13 per person per hour. And whatever it takes to clean it up, it'll save us a lot of money because we'll get it done quicker and we won't have to pay overtime. And they said, okay, we'll try it. They showed up. They had 80 college students, 80. We cleaned up the Grove in an hour and a half. When we were doing it by ourselves, it was taking us all day Sunday. It was from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. It was just a long day. So we were shocked. We were amazed. And this system kept working. And we got more and more organizations involved, and they use it for fundraisers. But the big takeaway is to let our staff be a part of the collaboration that helped develop that solution that we ultimately came up with.
And again, I think that's amazing, especially with it speaks to the community down there, and especially on a college campus. That's hard to speak to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So one of my kids asked me this question. With you as such a great leader of your crew and whatnot, what is it that drives you? Obviously, you're extremely passionate for what you do. You've been doing this for over 20 years. What is it that really drives you to go into work every day with that same mentality?
I like people. My wife might disagree, but I do like people. I like to see people go to the next level. I like to see people go beyond what they thought. So it's kind of like in football where somebody doesn't think they're good enough, but then they try out and they get a little better and they get a little better. And next thing you know, they're the starting quarterback. That happened to me in the 6th grade. I was the 4th string quarterback going out for spring practice. The 3 guys in front of me all had experience being quarterback. And I was like, I don't even know why I'm out here. The number I was wearing, you had to wear your own jersey. My number was 88. Okay. I just had an old orange jersey, Auburn jersey, and it was 88. And there I was trying to play quarterback. And I remember the first time they stuck me in, a ball snapped between my legs. I was fumbled. I had no clue where to do. I had no clue. I was never played organized football. I played in my backyard. But by times 3 weeks came, the spring game, I was the starting quarterback. Somebody invested in me. My coaches invested in me. They trained me. They spent time telling me what a 44 crossbuck was. What a 32 option is, and I learned the footsteps. In 3 weeks, they trained me, and I was able to get to that point. I love it when we can train our staff like that, when they can get to that point, when they can really go by that. A lot of that, I think, is that interior, what makes me. I mean, a big part is I believe in people. I have a lot of faith in people. I have a lot of faith that people are here to help and want to do good. And so I love to trust people until they prove otherwise, but trust them that they're going to do really well. And that excites me. I mean, I saw Denise go from a weeder to running this whole department. And she was just an amazing, amazing person before she retired. I mean, she was absolutely great. She went from a frontline weeder, became a supervisor, and it kept challenging her. She was like, I can't do this next level. I don't want to be the boss to my former bosses. And we just let her try it little at a time, little at a time. Man, she was running everything better than I was running it. I hated it when she retired because I had to go back to work more, right? Because she was so good. But she was training somebody else. And so we have another person who stepped into that position as well. I just love that. I think to me, that drives me more than the plants do. And I love to see beautiful plants, but I love to see people who grow those plants even more.
That's awesome. So we sort of asked this on most of the podcasts. Over the years, you've racked up quite a few accolades, personally and with your crew. Was there ever a moment in your career where you really felt like accomplished, like more than anything else, like that I'm doing something? And again, it doesn't have to be an award or anything like that. You were speaking to your former supervisor. Was there ever a moment where you really had that like I made the right choice with my life decision and this is great. I've made it.
I don't know if I've ever had the decision thought of that I made it, but I will share this story with you. It was very meaningful to me, and I don't know if it'll mean a lot to to your students, but hopefully it will. Uh,
Definitely will.
we were we, well, you're gonna like it, okay? We had a lot of drama in our department, and not good drama, not like plays and skits. We had a lot of finger pointing and rumors and just yeah stuff. Oh my goodness! So we had to change, and I'm the leader. That's on me. And so I got to my wits end. Denise kept coming into my office about every 2 or 3 weeks and said, they're at it again. And I'd go out there and I'd point the finger and say, y'all gonna stop this? We're tired of it. And it'd go away for 2 or 3 weeks and they'd come back. And so I was kind of at my wits end. I was praying a lot. I was asking the good Lord, like, what should I be doing? And then got this idea that I should be working on growing people like you grow plants. Grow people like you grow plants. And so I kind of fleshed that out a little bit. It's like every plant needs a little water to do well. It needs a little food, a little nutrients, and it needs plenty of sunshine, positivity. And so it's like I need to be watering our team. I need to be feeding them. And it didn't necessarily have to be me, but what I started doing is we started reading the books and we made that option available for everybody. We started watching DVDs on great leaders like John Maxwell and Les Brown. And we were watching these guys and I noticed that our guys they were changing. I noticed the drama was going away. I noticed that some of our, what we call dramanators who were creating the drama were losing their influence.
I might
And they
steal that,
actually
just a heads up.
go for it. Dramanator, I stole it too. They left, and it was a mutual thing. Hey, good for you, great for us, right? We're glad. We had some of our dramanators switch and come to the light, so to speak. They had a good positive thing they attracted to. I started walking them in wisdom, right? Walking them toward things that were right. And so after that, we've been doing that for about 2 years. I had a guy knock on my door, have open door policy, knocked on the door, said, hey, can I come in? I said, absolutely. So he sits down, and he closed the door, sits down, and he goes, man, I just want to tell you this stuff that we're doing where we're walking in wisdom. We call it leader to leader, where we're doing this thing once a month. And he goes, this has made us so much better. He goes, we're not fighting as much. We're getting along. He goes, I know it slows us down a little bit, but at the same time, it speeds us up. And he just got quiet. I mean, like he just stopped talking and he put his head down. And I'm thinking, okay, did I miss something? What happened? And when he looked back up at me, his eyes were full of water. And I'm going, oh man, what's going on here? And he goes, I just want to let you know I was getting ready to file a divorce with my wife. He goes, leader to leader, the stuff we're doing. He goes, I realized she's not the problem. He said, I'm the problem. He goes, I realized I kept blaming my wife for everything, but it wasn't my wife. I said it was me. He goes, we hadn't been doing this, I would have never seen that. He says, I just want to thank you. You saved my marriage. So when you ask, what, how do you know you made it? I don't know if I made it, but I helped change the life. And sorry to get a little emotional there, but
You are absolutely fine. That's incredible.
When you can change people, you didn't know that was going to happen. I didn't know that was going to happen, but it's an awesome thing when it does happen, because now he's a stronger leader. Actually, he's actually left my department making more money because of what he learned here. He told me, he says, I have the confidence now in what you've trained me to do. I can go to that next level. He's making a lot more money working with telecommunications now. And so proud of him. He was over at my house the other day. I actually hired him to come do some internet stuff up to my shop. And I said, man, how's your marriage going? He goes, man, we are solid. He goes, family's doing great. We're doing great. And I was just like, yes, that's a win. That's a win. That's what means something to me. That's purposeful right there. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. So a little bit of a shift. I read that you are a certified arborist in International Society of Arboriculture. Is there something that you love more than the rest that sort of like stands out, whether it's working in arboriculture or lawn care, and again, I know you love all of it. Is there one that like you are more drawn to? So like I'm a sports turf manager. That's what I've always been drawn to. Is there anything that you yourself were drawn to?
You're right. I mean, our industry, there's so much. Some people just think green industry. There's so many pieces of our industry.
Absolutely.
I tend, where you're a turf guy, which I have so much respect for, but I tend to focus more on trees and shrubs. That's just something that I really was passionate. Dr. Ponder, I think, had more influence on me than anybody with that passion and how he taught. And so I just really, I dove deep in it. And so that's, I think, why I'm ISA certified. That's why I'm PGMS certified, much more than, say, the turf grass. And you got to have them all, though, to be complete. You got to know a little bit about everything in my world. And so that, here I had a college degree, but yet I still got certified ISA, right? You need it. People respect that. People, when I go and talk and at the table, the ISA carries a lot of weight when you're talking about trees on campus. Well, he's a certified arborist, right? Even though I have a 4-year degree, they're still talking about the certified arborist. So I think I lean that way.
That's great. With everything that sort of goes into what you do, what do you think is most important as an employee? So these kids, they're looking to do internships and whatnot. What is the most important thing that you're looking in someone when you're hiring them, when you're giving them that chance, that opportunity you were talking about from before? Because there are times where I know I'm like, uh-oh, this is not the right place for you. I'm gonna let you know that right now. But at the same time, we want to make sure we give those opportunities to those kids that really need it, or those adults that really need it. Is there anything that you're looking for specifically?
Yeah, it's the 4 C's. I look for 4 C's. I don't care if I'm hiring college kids or if I'm hiring a mechanic. You want to know what the 4 C's are?
Absolutely.
All right, 4 C's. 1, do they have the credibility, right? Do they have the credentials? Do they have the ability to have the knowledge? Number 2, do they have the character? Did they show up on time? Did they show up a little early? That's when a person doesn't show up for an interview, that tells me they don't have the character. So it's huge. Go to the job interview a day before, learn where to go, know the place. Don't wait till the day of the interview to try to figure it out. Say, oh, my phone will take me there. Don't know it the day before. So a guy happens all the time here. People lose it because they lost the second C. The third C is chemistry. Are they going to be able to get along with everybody else and work together as a team? See, I don't care what you know. If you came in with that first C where you know everything and you're a doctorate, you have a doctorate in trees and turf, and you're the smartest person in the world, but nobody can stand working with you because you don't have the chemistry, I'm not going to hire you, because chemistry is much more important than your competency on that first C. Then the fourth C, really, this one's really important, especially for a young person coming in. Are they coachable? Are they coachable? Uh, it's amazing how many times we hire people and they say, I know, I know, I know, but they don't. It's like, are you coachable? Will you learn? Will you listen? And will you have the right attitude in learning? And so we're looking for uh, coachable people, because the coachable people become your best leaders. They listen. You got to learn to follow before you can lead. And so when they're coachable, when coach asks you to take one for the team, I need you to block. You can't score the touchdown. I need you to run the edger. You're not going to be on the 72 today. I need you to run the edger. I need you to go punch pay. I need you to go pick up that dead deer that's on the side of the road.
Oof.
Can you do that? Versus being the one on the 72-inch mower, out there getting the glory. So it's the 4 C's, man. That's the 4 C's I dialed into every time.
That's awesome. We sort of got this question from past podcasts. Is there anything that you wish, and obviously you're doing great, you have great success and it's phenomenal. Is there anything that you wish you could tell yourself when you first started Ole Miss from now?
Yes, start Landscape U a lot sooner. Start leadership a lot sooner. Start putting more money in your savings account and in retirement when you're a lot younger. If you have a job today in high school, open up a Roth retirement plan and start putting money away.
At the highest increment.
Yes, because it's crazy what compound interest does, isn't it? I mean, after 30 years, you're saving $10, $15 a week. It is stupid money. You're talking millions of money, but you got to start the plan. So I wished I'd have done that earlier, but I did do it, and glad I did. But uh, but don't. I said, it takes a while, so you got to be patient. But I wished I'd have started Landscape U earlier. It was a concept in my mind early, but I could never get it figured out. But Denise helped me tremendously with that. So it was all the right timing. And we teach conferences now on how to do that. We teach other schools how to create their own university, Landscape University. That's a lot of fun. But I think being willing to take take a risk, and don't always have to be on the safe side. Be willing to uh, go out there and speak in front of people and be prepared, right? Be willing to do that early on. That's the great thing about this job, is I've got to stand up and teach a lot, and it pushes you to the next level. I wouldn't be, now I'm a paid speaker, but you don't become a paid speaker until you do a lot of free speeches, and I still do a lot of free speeches. But let me tell you, they can pay you a lot of money to give a speech now, and it's kind of fun to go speak and get paid. So don't be afraid of speaking, getting out there and getting after it. Write a book. I wished I'd have wrote a book earlier.
So going with that, how have you seen your writing impact your job at Ole Miss and with your crew? Obviously, you do a lot of reading. Has your writing impacted how you operate, or is it more just the way of which you operate in written form?
I think the writing just validates what I'm doing. I think, that's what we're doing now, is that first book. The second book I'm writing now is a book of short stories, and it's all about encouraging teams in the characteristics and to grow their teams, like how to have buy-in and how to do those things. But the book helps people, I think, see our bigger picture, see the bigger concept of what we're doing. And so it has opened a book like this. It's a small book. You'd be amazed at how many opportunities, how many doors a book will open up. My publisher told me that. He says, if you really want to get in the speaking world, you need a book. And this has given me more. You remember that first C I told you about, credibility? This has given me more credibility than a college degree has when it comes to speaking. So if you want to get into the speaking world, if you want to do some type of whatever it is, if you're going to be a sensation on YouTube, and depending on what it is you're doing, you may want to have a book as well. And it doesn't have to be super complicated, but a book just adds street cred so much. So I speak a lot on campus now to groups I'd have never spoke to before because people read my book.
Is there a theme or a main focus of what you as an author were trying to portray to us as readers?
That's a good question. I think of the cover, like, you see the roots and you see the tree and all
I
that
love the cover, and when reading it, you just look back and it's like, it's so true,
yeah. Well, I sign my book a lot of times, and then I put a scripture verse. I put Psalms 1 underneath there, and guy goes, "Oh, that's the book in Psalms 1 because Psalms 1 has a tree in it." And so I thought, I never thought of that, but it's kind of cool. And it's like I wanted to inspire people to grow in their careers, to grow themselves, but to grow others, right? And to realize it's really not that hard to grow others if you just look for ways to grow others. But as what we tend to do as leaders is we tend to want to be busy so that we don't have to do what's important. And the way I be busy is I just stay so focused on what's at hand today. I got to focus on this. But instead, I could let my staff do that while I go work on what my next leadership presentation is going to be. Maybe I'll pull over for an hour and have 5 people, and we just do a leadership mentoring talk, do something like that. I facilitate it. That's harder to do for most leaders and most people in grounds. And so I was trying to encourage people in our industry is, hey, here's some real simple ways you could grow others and grow yourself and have a national championship program. Because we won 5 national championships in landscaping. So that's kind of a cool thing. They even let us get big rings on it. My ring's out in the truck, but it's like big, cool rings. We got championship rings with our 5 diamonds in there for our 5 national championships. So love that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I'm going to wrap it up. We usually ask this at the end with all of our guests. With kids, again, high school students who are heading out into the world, is there any words of advice, whether they're entering the landscape industry or just entering life? And you've given some phenomenal advice, and I can't thank you enough for coming on. But is there anything sort of at that age entering the world that you could give them, just sort of, again, overall entering the world as a person?
Well, don't freak out if you don't know what you want to do. Most of us don't. That's why old people like me ask you, what are you going to do when you grow up? Because we're trying to see if you got a better idea than we did. So don't freak out. I was in marketing 4 years into college and switched into horticulture. But here's the thing, you got to be looking and know what you don't like. It's just as important as you know what you like. Drew, I don't know how you got into the turf part of it, but something resonated with you along the way that you liked it. And I think you got to get out there and try things. I learned in the 8th grade because we had a career day where we went and worked somewhere. And I went and worked with my friend at his mom's nursery, not plant nursery, but little kids nursery. I learned real quick that I was not a diaper changer.
God bless
and
you.
that I don't do that.
No.
Was it a waste of time? No, because I can check that off my list. I knew I didn't want to be I probably couldn't do what you do, Drew. I enjoy teaching, but I don't know if I could do what you do. I'm just not that.
They're good kids.
I know they are. I probably don't. I'm not
in a high school setting. Yep, for sure.
So it's kind of figuring out what you do. Like the other night, I went and rode around with the cops on a night ride, right? But I was just curious, what's it like? Man, I have a lot of respect for those guys now, but doing little things like that where you can shadow somebody. I know it's out of your comfort zone, but if you can shadow people, and then when I say shadows, just hang out with them. And the crazy thing, if you can get in a car with your mom or dad, if they're doing anything, like if they sell real estate, and just start learning, because eventually you're going to put the pieces together, what they do that will help you in your career. You may not do real estate, you may not do what they do, but you'll put the pieces together and you'll learn from your parents. I think that's, to me, is don't be afraid, but at the same time, push yourself to keep learning what you don't like and do like. I thought I was going to do computers. No way, man. Mm-mm.
I'm so sick of computers right now. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah.
So we're gonna open up to questions. I'm not sure if there's that many questions, but guys, if you have any questions, go ahead.
Looks like you got the leaders here now. You've got the ones who are
The
staying with it.
The
The
troopers.
troopers are right. The ones that are persistent.
For sure. Well, I don't think they have any questions. So I want
It's been a long day.
I want to say thank you so much for coming on. This was fantastic. I know the kids learned a lot, and the kids are going to listen to this. They're going to learn so much from it. I can't thank you enough. I really appreciate your time. I hope you have a great, healthy rest of your year. Hopefully you're more open than we are up here, but at the same time, stay safe. So thank you.
Well, Drew, thank you. Thanks for, you're putting the pieces together for these men and women, these future leaders right here. So thank you for investing in them. And you don't have to do this. You don't have to do a podcast, and you're really helping them see a bigger picture. This is where the world's going. This is how we're getting our information. Everybody's listening to podcasts. And so thank you for investing in them. Thanks for having me on the show. And maybe one day I can help one of your students with a question or something down the road. I can be a resource. I'm on Twitter. I know a lot of, that's such a terrible place to be. But I'm on Twitter. And that's how Drew and I keep up with each other.
Yes.
And all the fun things. I'm on Instagram a little bit, but I don't really post a whole lot there. But yeah, find me on Twitter if you forget. And thanks again for having me. And thank y'all. Keep growing from weeder to leader.
Thank you, sir. Take care.